All right, we're back for another episode of Project Creation, and today we're going to be talking about PvE. So the first thing I want to talk about with PvE is I want to get your impressions, but also what you kind of expect out of PvE and MMOs. And go ahead, anybody could start. So
I mean, I guess I'll jump right in. I'm actually in the process of making a video on this specific topic. Um, I'm personally a little bit apprehensive. Like I'm both very looking forward to it or have a positive view on it, and simultaneously apprehensive about it. So I'm a hardcore raider. I've been doing the hardest raids and the hardest
yep.
difficulties for the better part of 10 years, and so I see everything through that lens. When I'm looking at an MMO, that's what I see. And there are some things that I'm noticing about Ashes that has me very nervous that they're not going to have difficult bosses. That's not going to be a thing. And so I'm nervous about that. But at the same time, there's a part of me that feels like basically raiding, or the very concept of raiding, was put into MMOs as a placeholder or a replacement for actual community building and real content. And Ashes of Creation seems to be trying to bring that back. So maybe there won't be a spot for raiding. Maybe you won't want to raid or need to raid because you'll be busy doing other things like leveling up your node and defending caravans and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm both excited about it, but also very nervous that my friends, the hardcore raiding community, is going to be like, yeah, that boss is easy on the hardest difficulty. I'm done.
Yep. We'll
Yeah,
touch more on that, but go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm gonna be as doomer about it. I know Ashes Intrepid said that they want to have like scaling bosses. The faster you clear up to it, the harder the boss gets. Or if you try to re-clear that boss for mats or whatever, it'll get harder.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
coming from Mythic raiding and World of Warcraft, I've watched a lot of the high end raids in Final Fantasy. Whereas I don't think raiding like won't have a place. It's going to have a place to get you really good loot because you're not going to get the best of gear just from PvP. I it would be a lot. They would have to show me a lot more than what we saw with the level 10 boss battle to convince me that
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be anywhere near. And that's not fair to put them up against, Blizzard that's been
You're
doing
right.
raids
Yeah.
for the better part of 2 decades.
Yeah.
But it's what they're going to have to fight against. So
Mm-hmm.
they have to figure something out. Hire really good. There've been plenty of forum posts, people going, "Don't hire Blizzard." And I'm like, honestly, hire Blizzard staff for your PVE. Like they do raids
Right.
better than anyone. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not as doomer about it, but my expectations, I don't want to set them very high. Not for
Right.
this game.
Yeah.
There's better parts of the game that'll shine. I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Mal, you got.
I'm right there with you. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to set my expectations high there on this one because, like you've mentioned, World of Warcraft has been doing this for a long time. I too come from World of Warcraft as well, and even though I started out doing the hardcore raids, throughout the years I've kind of leveled out to a more casual player. Um, but I am still excited to see how they're going to implement some of the things that they're planning to do for raids. It's kind of a different concept of what I'm used to.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys think though that rating's gonna be the end all be all though? You know?
I think there's going to be a lot of things in this game that's kind of going to either trump raids or be equal value. So there's going to be a lot that goes on in this game. There's going to be plenty to do. So it really all depends on what you're really focused on, what you want to do.
Yeah.
I really don't think rating
enough.
is going to be I don't think rating is going to be like the end goal in the game.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was alluding to when I first talked about, like in World of Warcraft as an example, and most of my hard rating came from Star Wars: The Old Republic, but I've done World of Warcraft as well. But when you're talking about those games, if I'm not rating, I don't have a reason to log in, and if I do log in, I like bounce around fleet waiting for somebody to start up a raid. There's nothing to do.
Right.
And those in World of Warcraft is the same way, and Final Fantasy 15 is the same way, and all these theme park MMOs, there's like a soulless component to them where there's nothing to do except for raid, and that's why the raiding is so popular. And I feel like like as he just alluded to, there's going to be so much more to do that I think rating is going to kind of fall to the wayside. And even people like myself who've just lived on rating for 10 years will find other things to do. I'll be more interested in going and defending that caravan so that my node can level up, or looking into I mean, there's theological societies you can join, and like all kinds of other things you can be interested in doing. And so I think, as much as it makes me nervous, because like I said, that's all I've ever done is rating. I see what you're saying. Like that might not be the end all be all, as you put it. It might be something we don't even care about.
That's what I mean. Like, if is this the new age to MMOs where rating isn't the fad? You know, rating isn't the drive to get to end level anymore. But one thing though that I do like, we're already far into rating, guys, so I'll just keep going with it.
Okay.
One thing I like so much about what Ashes is doing. Well, I don't know if I necessarily like this, but I like that they're incorporating a new way of rating. But I don't necessarily know how I feel about world bosses being generated by the node per se, of attacking your node and all that. I like the concept in that, but I just don't like how everybody can participate. It's like I get the participation ribbon syndrome, like it's much so more like we're trying to build this game in a theme park element, and we want to incorporate everyone. And when you think about rating's just high tier, man. Rating is something for hardcore players that's the elite of the game, that want the hardest difficulty that you can put out. And not everybody can handle that. Not everybody wants that, So I think they might be loading too much weight on themselves in that, but I don't know.
With that, the big question is going to be the not necessarily even the difficulty of the bosses. What's the power scaling here? World of Warcraft's had that problem for a couple expansions now, where they have 4 tiers of difficulty for raiding. Mythic Plus is a tier of difficulty. PvP brings its own tier sets, and that's like you raid, because if you clear Mythic raids, you're 10 item levels above everybody, and at that level, those 10 item levels makes a difference. But if you go into an open raid, do you have a chance of just getting this godly item or these godly mats for just being there? And on top of that, though, you also don't necessarily, for the open world ones, that'll be interesting, because we've seen, like, as early as Classic, open world bosses just can turn into massive gank fests. They're fun, but they're not going to be something that, like, raiders who are there to raid will have a lot of experience with.
They're spontaneous, you don't know when it's going to happen, and it's all on the progression of your node or the node beside you of when it's going to actually happen. It's at random events. But I mean, I like the fact that they can bring like a mega boss into your town and everything that you're building up to withstand, but I mean, it could easily go south with definitely ganking and trying to manipulate the spawns and all that too. So
I want to touch up on what you said, Maezriel. Sorry, I don't mean to butcher your name. So you mentioned with the open raiding where anybody can just come in and and join the raid and potentially get some god tier item. I thought about that actually yesterday, and that being a concern of mine, and I was hoping something along the lines of maybe something happening later on, similar to RuneScape. RuneScape has a event system where if you participate in an open world event, and the amount of work that you put into it, or amount of effort you put into it, is what you're going to get out of it. So if you only join in at the end of the raid, or end of the event, whatever you put into it, you're getting out. So the people who stayed there longer or started it at the beginning are going to get a much bigger reward than the person who just came in. Especially people who
I like that.
Put a lot more damage in, or put a lot more effort in, things like that. You get the bigger reward, and so I think that would be sort of a how would you say,
like a bridge, balance,
meeting in the middle on it, so to speak. So yeah, I was thinking about that yesterday, and it kind of concerned me a little bit.
I can see that. It just depends on how they want to measure that, because you could have people that are running up and down just trying to heal, while at the same time PvP is still going to be an issue.
Mhm.
I don't know. I think really what it comes down to is if you really, really, really enjoy the instanced scripted events of like World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy, AOC might not be the best, but we don't
Mhm.
know until we see more. Like we've seen the dragon fight, and it was really super basic, but it was
That was
out.
just a cheese fest, bro. That looked like
Yeah.
the easiest thing in the world.
We saw the level 10 boss fight, which granted they were missing 15 people in the party, so it was just them getting yeeted around all over the place for about 30 minutes. Like the mechanics are relatively basic. I think they're still figuring out how they want the combat to be. So it's very hard to say where rating will be in the
It really.
and it really comes down to like what is the distinction going to be, because I know they want crafting to allow you to have really good items, and they really are into the idea
Yeah,
of,
that's a whole different balance too.
yeah,
You
so
know?
you kill the dragon to get the sword, to get the materials to build the awesome sword. It's a very Monster Hunter thing.
Yeah,
So
that's
it
true.
kind of comes down to how much more powerful will it be to be able to go get that than to lay siege to somebody's city and try to get good loot that way.
Mhm.
And it really comes down to how they balance the loot. I think will determine how worth rating is, and then of course, I have no idea how they intend to do the dynamic scaling of a raid.
The dynamic scaling is really
That's
interesting.
that. I love that though.
It's a very cool
I
idea.
do like
There's
that,
no
yeah.
question. My personal concern has to do not necessarily with the loot, because and maybe I'm weird about this. I don't care about the loot. I don't raid for the loot. I raid because I
Yeah.
want to kill the hardest boss on the hardest difficulty. That's why I do it.
Right.
And so the loot to me is whatever. Like Star Wars: The Old Republic, for example, switched to a cosmetic only system. Like everybody runs around in top end gear. Anybody can get top end gear in that game in a few hours at maximum level or whatever. But there's all kinds of like decorations for your house and mounts and special stuff like that only drop on the hardest difficulties of the raids, and so that was fine with me. I don't even need the loot. My concern is that they're not going to be able to make it challenging, truly challenging, like really tight, well.
That's what I want to
raids.
get into. Yeah.
Yes, and my concern about that is because from everything, with two reasons. From everything we know so far, there will not be DPS meters. They're not going to allow DPS meters. And in my opinion, you have to have DPS meters to have a really tight boss fight, because as the raid leader, I've got to be able to know, okay, you're the one that's not pulling your weight. That's why we can't get through that little section where you have nanoseconds to do something.
Right.
And without that knowledge, then it's not fair to have a really tight boss fight. And then my second concern, and this one I will admit is probably premature. I'll admit it's probably premature because we only know the tank skills level 1 through 10, but so far there is not a force taunt. Everything just builds threat.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like there's nothing that says that guy has to target me for 10 seconds. It puts me at the top of the threat chart. And in my experience, that you can't have a tank swap that way. It's impossible to have a tank swap as a mechanic without a force taunt. And all raids that I've ever done that don't have a tank swap are boring to tank. It's you're literally just standing there looking at the boss's crotch because he's always 6 feet taller than you.
Mm-hmm.
And so there needs to be a tank swap. And right now, at least right now, we don't know that there's going to be a force taunt.
No, go ahead, Mace.
I was just going to say, I'm curious if raids are going to rely more, because we know a couple will be instanced, but it'll be like those so we saw the dragon fights. I'm just going to assume people who are listening to this are going to watch the dragon fight, I hope.
I'm sure everybody's
all the way
seen
through
this.
the dungeon, and then they got to that one instance room that had the dragon fight. And I'm curious if they're relying on most of the difficulty coming in the fact that you can get ganked in PvP for 90% of the game.
Yeah, I don't know if I like that in raids though. You know,
yeah,
I get it in dungeons, but raids.
But if most of the fights and like 95% of getting to a boss is going to have to be dealing with other players, it might, like the raid itself might not ever be as tight as something like WoW or Final Fantasy. And I'm going to keep beating those drums because I forgot Star Wars had raids.
It did, but
really hard raids. Let me tell you.
I've only ever played it for the story.
Right.
But
it's
like Final Fantasy,
good to play
like,
for
WoW,
that.
they're definitely like the gold standard for MMOs right now.
Yes.
And I don't I like a lot from AOC. I'm excited for a lot. This is one of the few things where I'm like, guys, you can't get your hopes up that high.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't think it won't be fair to Intrepid to get our hopes up really high. They have a lot of cool ideas. We're still in the part where I'm not sure how many of these ideas will get scrapped once Steven realizes like that it's harder to code than what he thinks it is.
Right. And a lot of it looks good on paper, but in practice it could be a nightmare, you know.
Yes.
We
But
don't even know if we're going full tab.
yeah, that's what I mean. Like that in itself defines a game, you know, like the whole, like everything, you know. But I want to get into what Zill was saying about the actual like raid difficulty and the mechanics of the raids and what it says on the wiki. If you guys didn't check the wiki out, go ahead and check out the wiki, ashesofcreation.wiki. The guys over there put it together. It's pretty good. But what they want to do with that, it's more so on the actual mob, not because in WoW they kind of show the area on the ground where they're going to hit and all that. It's not going to be more so that. It's more so like he's going to telegraph a hit and you have to respond. And it's all about telegraphing and not actually giving it away to you. But if he looks like he's going to swing, he's probably going to swing, you know? So you should probably back the fuck up. But what do you guys look for in like mechanics and like what do you guys want Intrepid to incorporate in the actual like thick of it, you know?
That's an interesting question. I haven't thought about it from that perspective. I'll say the thing that I've been using as like my example for why you can't have hard rating without DPS meters. There is a fight in Star Wars: The Old Republic where after a certain point, I think it's at half health, the boss teleports to the middle of the room. It's this big square room, and she's pointing straight north, and then a bunch of droids come and land in a big circle all the way around the room, and she starts shooting lightning straight north and starts turning clockwise very slowly, shooting lightning the entire time. And if the lightning touches you, you die instantly. No, there's no saving you. If the lightning touches a droid, it's party wipe. Everybody's dead. So you have a very small amount of time to go over there, take out the first droid, and then the next one and the next one and the next one all the way around the room. And, you know, on story mode, I mean, 2 people can go over there and take out the droid in
Right,
time.
yeah.
But in a nightmare difficulty or mythic or whatever you want to call the hardest difficulty, like you have to have all 8 people or 16 or how many ever in the raid on that thing, saving their cooldowns, everything just to get the first droid down with this much to spare, you know, and then it gets a little easier as you go around. And so that's the kind of difficulty that I'm looking for, where it has to be timed down to the nanosecond. Like everybody, you have to have 8 people or 10 people or whatever the rate, you know, however big the rate can be absolutely perfect for 10 consecutive minutes or 7 consecutive minutes in order to kill the boss on the hardest difficulty. That's what I want as far as difficulty, but I understand that you may not be looking at that with this game.
But do you like how you can get it to that, like it, because it's really on how on the scaling part, but like how fast you progress through the raid. You know, say you do it in the fastest time slot to get the fastest and hardest boss to spawn,
right.
And that's the best loot table you can get, right? Do you guys like? How hard do you want it to be? Like it's like not like I want it to be where maybe one guild did it, you know, or 1 or 2 guilds have done it. And that's what makes them fucking up here. You know, you got everybody else, all the other guilds, and then you got these 2 guilds, you know, or whatever.
100% agree. Yeah.
That's how difficulty I want it.
So with WoW, it doesn't just telegraph, it has like the big circles. It tells you don't stand here. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's just holding your hand. It's like, if you're telling me it's just holding your hand, you don't raid at a mythic level. You've seen somebody raid and you're like, oh, that's easy. And you don't actually do it, because the idea of having something feel like Dark Souls where it's telegraphed, but it's not actually telling you exactly what's happening.
Right. Yeah. Dark Souls is a good game. Yeah. To refer to.
And a lot of people want this game to be at a Souls Monster Hunter level, but like they keep wanting that without it without taking into account the 20 other people that are going to be, or the 19 other people that will be in that fight with you.
Right.
And it's those circles aren't there to make it easier. Those circles are there to ensure that 20 people can get out of the way when you've already, and we don't even know what resetting will feel like, because like wiping in WoW, and I'm sure it's the same for Star Wars, you wipe hundreds of times on a boss.
Yep.
That's easily just expected, and you reset, and you want to get to the point where you're resetting within a minute, or you're just wasting time. So we don't know what that'll look like for even the world bosses. It'll probably look pretty miserable. But if you're having to wipe 100 times, but you still have to run an hour to get to the boss, you have to fight your way through that. It's not going to be challenging. It can be exhausting.
Well, that's how EQ had it. Like majority of the damn fight was getting to the guy, you know, and once you got to the guy, then it like the real shit kicked off, you know, like, and if you wipe getting to him, you know, you spend all that time, and I mean, it progressively gives more experience to your guild, because as you guys do it, you know, you're getting more used to it, you're getting more used to the fights, and then I like the fact that you can kind of get a benchmark, right, and then work from that benchmark all the way up until you get to the highest tier, you know, and that's really on the speed at which you do the dungeon, or at which you do the raid, which I do like that, you know. But you're right, it's about position and location and strategy. So, I mean, I think all that's going to be there in the raids. I want to say that Intrepid's going to make it fun and difficult. You know, I really don't hope that they cater to everyone in that. I think the boss fights will be a little bit catered to everyone to get everybody in on the action, because 80%, 70% of the game, the players, they don't even raid, you know, like they never get to that level, you know, and if they do max out, you know, and they do get a character up there, it's usually late, or it's they get up there and they don't really do it that much. They go in a few raids, but they don't actually like go hardcore in it, you know, and I want that hardcore tier of people that just do that. You know, I love that in MMOs. I hope it doesn't go away, but I mean, it seems that it might, you know, especially if they have to worry about gankers and PvPers coming in on them. I mean, I don't want to be the asshole, but I would probably sit outside the raid and wait for the guys to come out with all the mats, you know, that they get from the dragon or whatever it is, just to kill them and take them from them and be like, look, sorry guys.
So what if the hardcore tier, or that top tier that you're talking about, what if that's just not the rating people? What if the top tier people are the ones who are able to, you know, take over a castle or control a node? Or I kind of feel like that's where we're going. Like the rating is not going to be where you get your top end guilds. They're going to go in and wipe out the hardest raid on the hardest difficulty, just simply because they have the numbers and the gear to do it, not because it's challenging. The challenging part is going to be building up the numbers and the gear to do it, because you're controlling a node and your guild leader is the mayor of the node or the city, and you know, all of those things. I think that's where the difficulty is going to come from. And so I almost feel like there's not going to be such a thing as I'm a PvEer and I'm a PvPer, and we're two separate classes that exist parallel but don't cross streams like you see in so many MMOs now. I think everybody's going to be mixed.
Everybody's going to be one. Yep. I think so. And especially like if you don't craft, you're selling yourself short. You know, if you don't PvE, you're selling yourself short. That's why, like, you look at all these guilds in the Discord and you're just like looking at them and they're like, all of them are PvX, because they know if you don't PvX, you're not going to be shit. You know, like you can't solely just PvE, because you're just going to get stepped on and stepped on and stepped on. But going back to the castles, though, I do wish, though, the castle raids are probably going to be the hardest raids in the game, just because it's such a monumental thing. But I don't think that they're going to make them too hard, because then people just can't beat them, you know, and there's just going to be vacant castles for the longest time, and they actually want like the nodes to grow, and that's such like a big component of the game, you know. So we'll see on that. But let's go ahead and switch gears over to dungeons. And dungeons kind of emulate raids, and they always kind of have, but they're going to be more so open world than instanced, and that's where you're really going to get the PvP guys at your back door fighting you while you're trying to progress through the dungeon, or trying to get to that spot where you guys can actually like take a rest, what have you. But let's see. Oh yeah, and I wanted to say too, how do you guys feel that dungeons are going to be more so scaled back to party size?
I'm sorry, can you reiterate that question?
Yeah, like how do you guys feel that dungeons aren't going to be you know, as I'm trying to see here. Well, I'll say, what do you guys think about the dungeons, and what do you guys want out of them for Ashes?
I'm gonna say the thing that I'm most excited about, and I think I've mentioned it in another episode as well, was finding those secret rooms if you have a rogue in your team.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
nobody else is going to be able to find it, but that rogue is. I think is absolutely awesome, and I hope that they are able to do that for other classes as well, like just class specific rooms that only one class can find, and you can go in there as a team, or just that specific class can go into that room. I think that's an awesome idea, and I'm really excited to see that happen.
That is really that's something I didn't even know, but that's a really cool idea. Didn't Dungeons and Dragons Online have something similar to that, where if you didn't have a thief or a rogue in your party, then you couldn't? There was rooms or chests or
It's
something
about
you
perception.
couldn't access. I can't remember.
Yeah.
That's a cool concept. I didn't know about that.
Like even in classic World of Warcraft, if you brought a rogue in a dungeon, you see locked chests or anything, they would lock it open. Or if you were a blacksmith and you had a skeleton key, you were able to open it. But if you didn't have a blacksmith or a rogue, you couldn't open any of the locked chests that are in the dungeon. So I think that's just kind of like a basic MMO thing, but in Ashes of Creation, I think they're bringing it to a whole another ballpark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really cool idea.
Well, it says here that. Go ahead, Maze.
I was just going to say, as far as scaling, I don't think it's an issue. I kind of like the idea, and I hope they go through it. I don't remember if I've heard of it or if it's just an idea that, like, some of the dungeon is really easy, and then you get to, like, one of the rooms, and it just wrecks your world, so that you have to go back when you're stronger. And I hope they encourage doubling back like that.
Interesting.
Well, I think it was I forgot which stream it was, but they actually like went through a dungeon and they were fighting, and you could go one way and it would be like way more difficult than if you go to the left side. So like there was different difficulties within the dungeon of actual mobs at levels and stuff like that. But another thing, and I think they were in like a lava tier. Maybe it was even the way onto the dragon. I want to say, I don't know if
that's what it was.
Yeah. So when you guys saw that, and it's gonna correlate with the dungeons, but the actual landscape of the dungeons, like there's gonna be lava that you gotta cross. There's gonna be actual like terrain difficulties that's gonna be in your way, and I like that. Like, what do you guys think about having that extra worry, as you guys progress through the dungeons? You got your PvPers coming behind you, you got the content in front of you, plus you got all the terrain to worry about.
I mean, I'll say as a, like, in every MMO where I've raid, I avoid the smaller size dungeons like the plague because they're boring. They're a foregone conclusion.
Right.
Like if you have one person who's an elite raider, they can just drag anybody through a dungeon, even on hard difficulties on most of those games. So having dungeons where you can queue up every day, or I guess there's no queuing because
that's another thing. Do you guys like queuing?
Yeah, I'm totally on board with no queue group finder, but but you can go to do a dungeon and it's challenging. It's new. It's changing every time. And it's really hard. I'm on board with that. I'm on board with any type of content that you want to do every day as opposed to looking at like a chore. So yeah.
Well, yeah, I think it's going to be more of like a daily content thing, like let's go do this dungeon. And you got a couple friends with you online. Maybe your guild's not all online. You don't have the raid scheduled, but you still want to play. You could still get some content done. It might not be like the gear you necessarily want, but it could be mats that you might need for a crafting piece, or you need this certain piece of resource to help progress your shipbuilding as a guild. Like it could correlate across the board. It doesn't necessarily have to be like the traditional routine type of dungeon.
Right. Yeah.
But one thing
Yeah,
I
believe
do
that for
like,
sure.
yeah, and one thing I do like about how the access to the dungeons are going to be available to you is your progression through your node. You know, it all scales back to, or it all circles back to the node and how much you actually put into that node. You know, and whether it be through quests or events or what have you that dungeons spawn, or you guys grow your node up to that next level, and then now you have a whole plethora of new content to encounter. I mean, I like that, but I don't know if that's going to be for everyone, or anybody that's within the umbrella of your node can access that content, whether it has to be a citizen based or what have you. But yeah, I just like how that's going to be a thing.
Yeah, I think that rolls it back to, like, I know we put a lot of pressure on combat. Steven keeps saying, like, you have to have combat be good, and he's right. It does. It has to be good to a point. And I think Bethesda is probably the best example that your combat doesn't have to be world class to make a fun game that
Yeah.
people will put hours
Fallout.
into.
Mm-hmm.
Even just Skyrim, like, you just bash right click over and over, and that's your combat.
Right.
But the nodes, so much is intrinsically tied with the nodes that that's kind of the point. Like, once Alpha 2 hits and I can finally start getting it, that's what I'm going to be pushing the most, will be nodes. And seeing how they work, because if the nodes work well, then yeah, I love the idea of you go into a dungeon, maybe one of the and maybe like later on in a node, because of mining operations, whatever they want to do to jazz it up story wise, a new opening was made in that dungeon, so you can go back to that dungeon, like, which goes back around to, like, I want Intrepid to encourage players to keep re-entering dungeons to further explore it. I also just hope they build on puzzles. Jumping puzzles are fun.
Yeah.
But anyone who's played Final Fantasy would have burnt out on those a long time ago.
Yeah, and Destiny too. You do a lot of that in Destiny. Yeah.
Doom.
Yeah.
I'm kind of just burning out of jumping puzzles. Please give me something more interesting.
Something different.
I do like
Mads,
it.
I think you have a good point there about the nodes, and I hadn't really thought about it quite in these terms until just now when you're talking about it, but it's almost like this entire game hinges on the nodes. The node system being good. Like, I don't know if any of you guys ever played Rift, but I played Rift.
Yeah, I did a little bit. Yep.
And it's like they built the entire game around this system of these rifts opening up here and there and whatever, and there's all this intricate stuff going on with rifts, but none of it was all that interesting, and it ended up just kind of being another boring whatever MMO, because they built the whole thing around this one system. And in a sense, Ashes of Creation is doing the same thing.
I hope,
like,
dude.
The node systems is everything, because everything is interwoven through the nodes. Everything, the whole game.
Yep.
And so if that system is not interesting, or is too difficult for people to participate in, or too complex for like a everyday normal casual player to figure out and be able to help with, you could have a situation where the entire system fails because the node system is not right. So they've really got to nail that node system, really got to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I think too, like, going back to the raid difficulty and actually like people wanting to raid, I think it's really going to be like people's attention is going to be focused on the node, because your whole world can become crashing down in one battle or one, you know, like you can build to tier 5 and it all turns to rubble. I mean, that's good and bad, you know, like, yes, you have the potential to sack cities, in which I love and which we love as a guild, to be able to do that sort of thing. But also your baby can just poof in one day, you know, like months and months and months and hours you put into your node, and it could be gone like that, you know? But I do like how that's not like the end all be all. And it's funny that Ashes of Creation, everything's created from the ashes, blah, blah, blah. Right. And that's where they get that principle from. And I like that, but, I do want to say though, because the replayability it's going to add is really cool. 'Cause like, even though your node got destroyed, you could still come back even stronger, you know, like you have that redemption, you have You know, it's a learning lesson too. You know, it might be hard, but it might be too difficult to come back to where you were. You know, and that might turn people off. You know, be like, oh, my node just died. I'm not going back in the game for months, or I'm not coming back to this game. Screw this. You know, so it could be a double-edged sword. I don't know. What do you guys think with that?
Right.
I can't think of too much where I disagree. You're either gonna love it or you're gonna hate it. I don't think there's
There's no doubt. I think the game's going to be super polarizing when it comes to that. It is going to be a game that people love beyond belief, or they hate and can't stand it. And there's going to be very few people who are like, Ashes, I could play it or not play it, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to find that. People are going to love it or hate it, I think.
Right.
Speaking of polarizing, if you don't mind me asking a question this time.
Yeah, dude. If you guys want to ask, by the way, go ahead, ask questions. I'm not always the asker of the questions,
Yeah.
so go ahead.
So I know when it comes to just baseline open world PvE, some of the most polarizing topics are: how difficult do you want the mobs to be? Do you want quest markers? Do you want I think those are the two. Those are the big two, mostly because like World of Warcraft made quest markers like maybe a little overabundant. Same with like other games like Bethesda, Skyrim, Fallout, and then with quest mobs, like a lot of people want this game to just beat you bloody from the very start. What do you guys think of, like, where do you think the difficulty should be for just generic world PvE?
So, like, just like the leveling process?
Yeah, the leveling, like, what would generally just be solo play, or just like you and your buddy running about the world?
Mm-hmm.
I think having the quest markers is okay as long as it's not like brain dead questing.
Mhm.
Like you don't even have to think; you just show up to
A
a
to B
location.
to C, yeah.
Yeah, quest marks are cool. Like, okay, you have to go to this region and find all this stuff. Okay, cool. I know where I need to go, and I'm gonna go there. But once it's go find this stuff, and here I'm gonna mark it all on the map of where this stuff is, so you don't even have to look for it, or you don't even have to kill XYZ monsters for this because I already told you which monster it's gonna be on. That part, it gets boring. Like even on World of Warcraft now, when I try to level up a character, once I get to level 10, I'm just like, yeah, I'm done playing now. I don't want to play anymore. So quest markers are nice as long as it's just not overkill. And then having that difficulty and leveling, that's going to be a big part in learning your class. So I don't want it to be super easy where it only takes 2 hits to kill something or things like that. I want to use my abilities and learn how to use them correctly, and know what I need to do for my class to play efficiently with anybody else.
Yeah. And we know like you guys seen them just like kind of going out and just fighting in the world. Did like any of you guys think that was like super easy? Like I just looked at them like, this
Steven
looks
has
so
God mode
easy.
on like all the time.
I know, yeah, and I know that's alpha and whatnot, and they have none of it's scaled or none of it's balanced. They just have like hit pools in and whatever. But I just hope it's not easy. Like I hope like every encounter you come across is like, oh shit, all right, we gotta, like I get it, like the monsters just outside your starting city, easy, whatever, help you just level up. But actual like things
I'm very on the fence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like I don't want it to be so easy. Like I got back into Star Wars. Like I said, I play for the storylines.
Right.
And I came in after the big update, and you might remember the name of the update where they cranked the leveling and made it like everything dies in one hit.
Yep.
Almost.
Yep.
And I was like, man,
don't want that.
Yeah, and I don't want that, but at the same time, I don't want to be beaten black and blue every single time I fight something, and then just to have somebody come up and one-shot me, because we have to deal with PKs.
Right. I was gonna say that's the thing about the difficulty of the PvE is there is no just PvE or just leveling. You're always dealing with that other side. And so if they made every mob or even 50% of things you fight be that difficult, all the PK has to do is wait for you to be right in the thick of it, and they can jump in and kill you and take your stuff or a portion of your stuff or whatever. So there's a little bit of balance there.
Yeah, and I know there's not as many PvX games out right now, but anybody who's played a battle royale will know like how frustrating it is to finally get through a tough fight. It feels kind of good. You're trying to heal, and somebody just comes up and hits you in the back of the head. It's not fun. It's just you're just like, well, What was the point?
That's when you rage and break your
Why?
controller, right? Or headbutt the keyboard, right?
Yeah,
Right.
and I'm just like, man, I'm just gonna log off. And like, it kind of sounds like whining, but there it is. It's a delicate balance between difficult and satisfying, and just frustrating. And
Right.
I want Intrepid to be careful with that. I would rather them undertune the monsters at first and then bring them up a little bit, than just have everybody just be like finally get to the starting area, feel good about how like struggling with that, limp their way right into the arms of PvPers waiting to wreck their world.
Right.
I don't think that'll be fun.
I mean,
true.
we can kind of get like a little, we can kind of infer on this too, because everything you do is going to be resources gathered or tasks. And we're going to get into questing right now, but all these quests that you're going to be doing is for your node. You know, if they make it too hard, the node's going to take forever to progress. So that's one way they can scale back the progression of each node, you know, is just make the content really hard. I personally prefer content really hard. Like I come from EQ and I come from games like that it's just old school. That's everything you do, like just taking on something that's the same level of you can easily kill you. You know, like you can lose the fight, but someone or something that's like a level or two higher, then you're probably going to need like some good gear to be able to kill the thing. You know, you can't just use your rags to kill it, you know? But I think somewhere in the middle, you know, like I don't really hold Ashes to be that high of difficulty in that regard, but I do still want that difficulty level to be there. I want to die. Like if I could put it, I want to die, you know, on my own soloing. And I could die easy if I'm not paying attention. But yeah, let's go ahead. So questing is broken down into 3 different categories. They got events, tasks, and narrative quests, which is like more your traditional questing. But so events are positive and negatives to your node that accept local, regional, and global that are in that. But this is more so like corruption from the ancients come in, and now you have to push it back, you know, or get it out of your node or out of your area. So how do you guys want events to be handled, or anything about events?
Yeah, I think events and narrative quests, like a narrative quest makes sense. Start it off easy, and as you progress through the story, let there be a nice big boss at the end, and it'll feel good. Events can probably just be hard throughout, depending on what the event is.
Yeah.
And then don't make me go out collecting wolf ears to just.
That's what tasks are basically.
Yeah.
Go do this.
Don't, like if I get that kind of quest has to exist, but just don't make it into more of a chore by also making the wolf pack into something super hard for no reason. I think there should be a between all of it, and like not every mob should have to kill me. I'm fine. Like if bandits want to be a little harder than wolves or something, that's something that always killed me with WoW. I just got finished destroying the Legion. The Legion went to BFA, and now bears are wrecking my world.
Right. And that's kind of almost a video game trope where there's no logic to some of that stuff. Things that are stronger than others, or you know, gold is always the next level up of tools to work with, mining tools, than iron. And it's like, oh, because gold is so much harder than iron.
Yeah.
That's why, you know, why it's a better pickaxe to have a gold pickaxe in it. So you deal with some illogic. Let me ask you a question. Have any of you guys ever heard of Wish?
Well, like wish.com?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Wish.com.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Fuckers never delivered my shit.
Yeah.
No.
Have you ever heard of an MMO called Wish?
No.
Okay. So this was an MMO that was in development in the early 2000s. I would say like 2004, 2005, somewhere around in there. And I actually was really early in on that, and I got in on the alpha. And so they had this whole system where, kind of like what you're talking about with the tasks, where it or the events where it affects your node up and down, and has positive and negative effects. And so, just as a quick example, in the alpha, I was playing that game, and I came across somebody, and there were no little icons on somebody's head. You had to go around and talk to people in the town to you know, do anything. And so I met the mayor, and yeah, I know. And the mayor told me that they had information that this town down the way, like a 20-minute walk away in the game, was going to be attacked by orcs or goblins, I can't remember, and that they needed to be warned. And so he gave me a quest to warn that town. And I said, okay, great. And because I've been playing MMOs forever, I went, okay, well, I'm going to go over here and mine or do something. I don't care. I'll deal with that whenever I get to that town or whatever. Well,
right.
the next day I'm walking through my town, and the town crier, or the newspaper boy, essentially, they had an in-game newspaper, and he's like, do you want the newspaper? And I said yes. And so my character's name is in the in-game newspaper because I didn't deliver the message to that town, and that town got destroyed by goblins or orcs or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I would like to see something like that where and I understand it's hard to do it on that personal of a level. Now this game never launched, by the way, which died in alpha, and nothing ever happened to it.
Right.
Partly because it was point and click to move, which made people mad. But
right.
Anyhow, I would like to see something like that where you are actually put on some type of a timetable, whether it be you personally or the entire node, or maybe just a group or whatever. And it's like, hey, these people are dying, and this specific flower is the only thing that can save them, and we need 100 of these flowers to save these people. And if you don't do it, then those people die. Or something like that. That's what I would like to see. Something that makes questing interesting and gives you agency and gives you urgency, both.
Right. Yeah, I think that's like that dynamic that it adds, because, and that's another thing I want to do. Like if questing is like how you said, if you don't do it, then there's repercussions,
Yes.
like, and I think that's where they're going with the events. Like if you don't handle the events, the corruption will just take over your whole node, and then you just have like an infestation, and then it just progressively gets harder and harder and harder. And then until it attacks your node and your node comes to rubble, and then, so it's not so much that the PvP is always the dictators of node destruction. You can definitely get PvE in there to destroy your node. So
Right.
There's both sides of the fence there, which I like. It's not just solely based on PvP.
What you're saying, if I were interested in a cult, just don't do the events.
Yeah. Hey, I got a little money. You can make a little side coin doing that.
Right.
But one thing, did you guys just see the latest stream that they did? I think it was like last.
I did.
Yeah. Did you see like where Steven was like PvPing with the three other guys or whatever?
And the tank was wrecking everybody.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. It's like play tank. But no, he went into where he didn't even know. He went up to like the little tent, and it was like an explorer's party, and then they had a task for him. And we got to see like a little bit of that task, and that was the guy's life's work got blown across the whole landscape, and you had to go and actually collect it. That's those tasks, I feel like they kind of need to be in the game for like those type of players, like Steven's like, oh, I'm not going to do that. He can get somebody else to do it. But I like, if you don't help that guy, even though you said you would, I would like there to be repercussions in that, and that kind of changes your influence, if they had influence in an actual like node setting or within the specific faction per se, or the humans or whatever, like that just was a disadvantage to me not helping them, like with that repercussion. But I think that would be super cool, just even on as little as the tasks, but narrative quests are definitely going to be something that are going to, because they don't want to push, they've said it on the wiki, but they don't want to push story in your face, which I like. Think about Star Wars. I think the narrative was awesome that they pushed it in your face. Like everything was voice acted. It was like so engaging. I don't even care about the rest of the game. I just want to see the storyline play out.
I want to see the story. Yep.
Yeah, and I want that to be engaging, because I know a lot of players love that, and I just like the cutscenes or whatever have you, and they have the budget to do it. So I really hope that they make this, very desiring and very worthy of doing, but how do you guys feel about narrative quests and like that whole storylines and story arcs being, pushed on you, really?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Just yes.
Push more on me. I'll do it all. Yeah.
See, I'm a little different on that, because for example, with Rift, I have no idea what the story was. Not one clue. I just clicked accept, run to the little wherever the marker was, and did the thing and ran back. I don't know. World of Warcraft, no idea what the story was. No clue whatsoever.
Time traveling
Now,
orcs. That's what it was.
yeah. Star Wars: The Old Republic. Now I knew because there was all the cutscenes, like you said. That was the interesting part about the game. So I actually know the storyline of what happens in that game. But pretty much every MMO, I just click accept and move on. And so what you said a second ago about having repercussions for accepting quests and not doing them is a good way of getting people to read the quests and get invested in the lore without like, because I was trying to think of like, how do I get the player to actually read the quest and actually know what's going on?
No, that's true. That's definitely a great way to do it. You know,
is make it where if you accept that quest, you're accepting the responsibility of doing it, and therefore you're accepting the consequences if you don't do it. And putting a system in like that in the game would actually have the player reading the quest, and then would get invested in the lore. And then maybe if you have a lot of players invested in the lore, maybe there's things that you could do that we never even thought of before.
Yeah,
just a thought.
Yeah, that's definitely cool, and it kind of transitions to like when you get up to like that high end of the story arc. You'll have epic and legendary quests to do, you know, like, I don't know if you guys played EQ at all, but they had epics in the game, and I hope it's similar, but like you get a weapon, like an epic weapon that you have, and that weapon is better than fucking everything, you know?
Yeah,
so
Dark Age of Camelot had that.
Yeah. So if you do it, you know, you get something, and you know, like when you look back at it, like, that's what people desired in raids. If you didn't have your epic, you go and get your epic, and then you come to the raid. You know, you don't fucking play around with this bullshit, you know, of dungeon gear or whatever have you. But I mean, I guess you do what you got to do. But you know, like I want that influentialness, because that was such a big dictation of who you were as a player. You know, if you did that, you know, your commitment. So I don't know.
I like that the epic quest is that's something they've kind of gotten away from. MMOs have kind of gotten away from. Dark Age of Camelot is the last one that I can remember that had that. But yeah, you would go through the whole quest, and once you got to 50, and there was little quests that you did along the way that were just quests, but at, you know, like level 10 and level 15, or maybe every 5 levels, every 10 levels, something like that, there would be a little bit more. You'd get a little bit more of your epic quest that's leading to this grand narrative that would end up culminating in a big long quest that I mean, in Dark Age of Camelot, it sent you all over the map. Like, you know, you actually were only in combat for like 6 minutes, but the whole quest took 2.5 hours because you were traveling all over the place. And maybe you don't need to do it like that, but that was the whole thing. Is it was this big long quest. In Daok, it was a whole suit of armor you got, not a weapon, but still, like, it was the coolest looking one. Everybody knew that you had hit the highest level and you had done your epic, because that's the armor set that you were wearing for your class. So,
and
I would love to see some type of
that's the badassery coming through the town. And then you could really make raid gear kind of on par with that, or just a little bit better, you know, from actually getting that. But
so with a lot of the examples though, like Star Wars, where you're the main character of that narrative, like, I think that's something a lot of players don't want from AOC. Like, they don't want to be the big main character. Like, I know I got sick and tired of being champion in World of Warcraft, because it went from, like, yes, here are all these heroes, to it's just you, but at the same time, it's not just you. Like, we had multiple generals that had people in Warlords of Draenor. You had multiple Maw Walkers, the one person chosen. Like, it's this world of paradoxes, and I don't like that. So I'm curious how they'll do the epic and legendary, like those quests. Like, I'm fine if they want to tie it into your archetype. I kind of really like that for Star Wars.
That'd be cool.
A savior. I mean, you only have 8 archetypes, and when you get down to it, I know we haven't talked combat or anything really, but I know that they say 36 classes or whatever it is. It's your archetype. Steven says he wants the secondary archetype to be impactful, but until I see otherwise, it's going to be cosmetic for 90% of the player base. Changing a charge to a blink, if you're a very high-skilled, sweaty player, I could see the impact. Charge to a blink for 90% of the player base is going to be cosmetic.
Those abilities have to alter the way the skill works. Like,
they do.
If they don't do that, then if it's just cosmetic, then they have 8 classes. That's tough.
And I say cosmetic, like, a charge and a blink, they are technically different. It is technically impactful.
Mhm.
I just don't know how impactful that is. And for some of them, it might be okay. I want to change this so I can get fire. I want to change this so I can get ice. And they have like the fire might apply a DOT, ice can apply a slow. If you
Mhm.
zoom out to a macro level, they're functionally the same, but there are differences for play style and things like that. So
Yeah, especially for
I'm
PvP, that's
curious.
huge.
Yeah, and the more micro, the higher your skill level, the more these changes might be affected.
Right.
And I'm still not sure if Intrepid's going to even try to balance. I doubt they will try to balance for the 1%.
Why would you try to balance? You can't balance 64 classes. I wouldn't
No,
even
they don't.
try to
Yeah,
get
they
balance.
don't. They know they're not gonna. They say even with like the gear,
They
you
said
know,
straight
like
up it won't be.
yeah, they said
Everyone's
straight up.
broken, so no one's broken.
Yeah, I mean,
Which is fine.
you couldn't balance it individual. They can balance more so the original ones, but they can't balance everything. But yeah, and that alone, you know, they're gonna keep it tank, healer, DPS. Like they're separating those, and it's well known that they're separating those. I just want to see like how much influential your gear is gonna be when I'm wearing robes as a tank versus plate armor as a tank. You know, like it's gonna be different. You know, like they've said it that you're gonna have more assets as wearing heavy armor as a tank than you would in robes. Like obviously that's a given. You can do it in D&D, but you're gonna like get fucked up right away. You know, you have no armor class, you know, so I mean that alone will dictate it. All right, so we'll go ahead and switch gears now for our last topic. So many of you guys didn't even know about this, but I didn't even know about this until last week when I was looking at the wiki. But there's going to be a monster coin system. And do you guys know much about monster coins?
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what you're talking about, man.
Yeah, dude. I was like, what? They have monster
So,
coins? Yeah, go ahead,
they're like
Maze.
very, very, very rare drops, or however they're rewarded. And they might be high level quests. I don't think they've hammered out how they're rewarded, but
Yeah, high
during,
raids and high level stuff.
I want to
yeah.
say not during a siege, but it's a
Mm-hmm.
PvE type of siege. I think it'll be an event.
It will be an
where-
event. Yeah. Like back
Okay,
to the
yeah.
questing events.
You
Yeah.
can run in, and it'll halt all the production in a node. A horde of monsters will attack, so you're trying to defend against the world rather than against other players. And since it's not during an active siege, I'm pretty sure PvP will be. It might not be toggled off, but it won't be in an active siege like it would be if you declared war on someone. So you're not going to be
Right.
taken over. But you can activate the monster coin to turn into a large monster, such as a dragon, to attack the town. Just
Yeah.
to have fun. And
That would be
decimate.
like super high tier rare is the dragon, but you could turn into
Mhm.
like a monster and attack the towns and stuff like that. But there's also going to be it's players and AI play as monsters against other players to like capture objectives and stuff like that within the event. But yeah, it's all dropped through like rating and high end type of stuff to get the actual monster coin.
So you can trigger. I'm trying to follow all this. You
So-
can trigger
Yeah.
an event where your node is attacked by monsters, and if you have the right monster coin, you can play as one of the monsters and attack your
any
own
monster
node?
coin, whatever monster coin it is. Yeah, you can. There's no right or wrong ones. It's any monster coin you get, you can activate it, but it triggers through node advancement, like defeating bosses. Whether that might be world bosses or just raid bosses or what have you, or constructing certain types of buildings can do it too.
You wouldn't do that like, on your own node, right? You wouldn't want.
No. It's to other. It's to other nodes.
to other people's nodes.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so then you could play as a monster attacking someone. That's actually a really cool system.
You say
Okay,
that.
I'm following you
You
now.
say that, but I'm not sure if they're going to lock you out. So you might attack your own node just to be a troll.
No, you can't. If you're a citizen of that node, you can't attack your own node.
Bummer.
No. Okay.
Because I would.
Bummer.
Yeah.
But it sounds like, so if you ever played Dragon Age Origins, there was a DLC, the Darkspawn Chronicles,
Mm-hmm,
where you could play as a Darkspawn general during the last fight. And
Yep.
it sounds like it'll be a lot like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Lord of the Rings Online has that. The PvP is you can either be as what they call freeps or the free peoples, or creeps, which is the monsters. You can play as spiders and wolves and wargs and whatever. So I've played a system like that, but not where you are directly affecting other players' nodes. That's an interesting concept. Like if a guild of talented PvPers, built up enough monster coins to take over, do that, you could end up with like really wrecking somebody's node. That's an interesting concept. I like it.
I'm curious how the cooldowns will work. Like if you
Mhm.
have to be like if there's a zone-wide cooldown, so you can't get 50 monster coins or whatever if somebody tries to bank a ton of them. And we don't know how rare they're going to be. I doubt they're going to be. I think they'll be a little more common than like flying mounts will be, but I don't think they're going to be.
So they got 3 different types of them. They got Legion, Elite level, and Epic level ones. So there's going to be probably 3 different categories of the actual monster coins. But
That's interesting.
the cool thing, the really fucking cool thing, like I like the idea of playing as a monster in a video game. I like that. That's pretty cool. I think that'd be a way to do it. And it's not, I don't know if you're going to be able to actually like take over the node. I think it's just going to be, you can destruct the node, you can hurt the node, you're not making it go down a class. You're just destroying a bunch of buildings and now they got to rebuild them, and they got to protect the node.
If they were a few buildings or a few resources away from going from a 4 to 5, you in the monster event clicks, you can rush over there, hit the monster coin, and you just take away a whole lot of that.
Yeah, you can, and that's good. That's like another strategy for PvP. Like this node's progressing faster than us. We need to scale them back. Let's do a monster coin on them or something like that. Or get these guys.
There's so much going on.
There's
this is why I think rating is going to not be important.
That's what I mean. It's not. No.
Yeah.
But
there's gonna be so much other stuff going on.
I hope it still is.
It makes you the raid boss.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But I was gonna say the coolest thing out of this, I think, is after which you do your monster coins. Monster coins. What you're rewarded with afterwards is you get that actual cosmetic of the monster you played for your character for a skin.
So you can just walk around as a spider.
Well, I think it has spider elements. Yeah, I don't really know what it's gonna look like. But that's
pretty cool.
That's basically how it is. Like you get the cosmetic of it, So, I love that. Like you get like that reward after. It's not just like bam, poof, it's gone. You knocked it back, but you also get a cool reward from it too.
That's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that. I need to spend more time reading the wiki.
Dude, there's so much. I'm like, damn. That's why I mean, like, it looks so good on paper, but in practice, there's so much shit they got to do in the game before they're even close.
Yeah, there's no doubt. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say again, I'm super hyped, but I am tempering my expectations. There's a whole lot they have to go through. I know the community keeps saying 2 to 3 years. If they have to completely remake combat, I would push that even further back. Like we just don't know until we know. So I'm excited to see it. I really hope they match up to their hype, but I know I'm not the only one in this chat who's been an MMO player for a very long time.
Yeah, we've all been burned.
Yep, that we have. All right, so that wraps up everything, guys. Did you have anything else you wanted to add before we close out today?
No, it was fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries. Maze, you got anything?
No, that was it. Thanks for having me too.
Mal?
Nah, I don't got anything. That was a really good chat.
Yeah, man. Thanks again, guys, for coming. Hopefully we'll get you guys back on here in the next one or coming up to the next ones. But yeah, thank you guys for coming on Plate, and we will catch you guys later. See ya.
Have a good one, y'all.
See ya.